So Zuffa Boxing is the new promotion around the block, owned by Dana White, the UFC's president or CEO, and it's funded by Turkey Al Sheikh. Now, I want to talk to you guys about why I think Zuffa Boxing is just causing more issues. Now, I'm getting what Zuffa wants to do. They want to have one champion in a division. They want to have one entity. But they just brought more issues into the sport of boxing. And I'm going to get into detail and explain my point of view. The first big point would be Jai Alpataya is the best example I can make of this. Jai Alpataya, the former IBF champion. Now he also held the Ring Magazine or the lineal belt at cruiserweight. Now, he was stripped of his IBF title due to Zuffa Boxing not recognizing the IBF as a sanction. They didn't want to recognize the IBF, even though their champion, Jai Alpataya, wants to fight for the IBF. He wants to go undisputed at cruiserweight, basically. But the issue with it is, for you to become a Zuffa champion, you have to hold the Ring Magazine belt, or you have to fight the number 2 in the division and you're number 1, or you have to be, just the best fighting the best in the division, right? But the issue comes along when there is already a ring champion. Let's say Dimitri Bivol, for example. If Dimitri Bivol never fights for Zuffa, but David Benavidez fought for Zuffa Boxing, and David Benavidez holds 3 world titles, and David Benavidez wants to go undisputed, Zuffa Boxing does not recognize it. And then, in turn, David Benavidez isn't a champion. That's what it is to Zuffa Boxing. If you don't hold the Ring Magazine belt, you're not a champion. They don't recognize the former champions that they've also signed, like Mark Masayo, and he's at lightweight in Zuffa Boxing. And I just want to have a conversation with you guys. This is not a deep analytical video. I'm just having a conversation. And I just don't understand how Zuffa Boxing is meant to make boxing better when it's making it more difficult. With the amendments they're making to the Muhammad Ali Act, that is also another video I would have to go into. But in my opinion, Zuffa Boxing is not doing any good for boxing. They're doing good for themselves. They're making their money, and they're getting these lower level fighters paid, these upcoming fighters paid, and prospects, which I admire because that's a good thing. They need to get paid. But when it comes to actually making the sport better, they aren't. I get you want one champion in the division, but you cannot just fail to recognize the other sanctions that have been here longer than you. The WBC, the IBF, the WBO, the WBA. Those 4 sanctions are important because they are the history of the sport. The WBA was the first. The WBC came after. The IBF came after. And the WBO came last. The Ring Magazine recognizes a lineal champion. It recognizes the best in the division, the number 1 in the division. That's what the Ring Magazine is. And I get what Zuffa is doing because they're saying the Ring Magazine is the Zuffa champion. It's the best in the division. But Zuffa Boxing does not recognize all the weight classes. It does not recognize 168. It does not recognize 154. So if Boots ever becomes undisputed, that's when they're going to recognize him because he holds the ring belt. They don't recognize 140. They don't recognize 130. They don't recognize 105, which has a ring champion. So there are all these weight classes they don't recognize because they recognize, I think, about 8 or 9 divisions. And one of the newest signings, Conor Benn, I really don't understand how Conor Benn got $15 million for his next fight. He's fighting this Saturday. He's getting $15 million for that fight. Conor Ben is not a highly rated fighter. He beat Chris Eubank. That's his best win on his resume. Conor Ben has never fought anyone. He's not won a British title. He's not won a regional title. I don't understand why a guy like this is someone you want to sign. I mean, he could have made more money fighting the actual champions. Now, I don't know if the WBC is going to rank Conor Ben anymore as their number one contender. I don't think he's going to ever fight Ryan because he's signed under Zuffa. And guys like Ryan, David Benavidez, John Boots Ennis, they do not plan on fighting for Zuffa. They plan on winning belts, going undisputed, and becoming champions with the belts they grew up watching. The belts Floyd won, the belts Oscar De La Hoya won, the belts Benitez won, the belts Sugar Ray Leonard won. Those are the titles they're going for. And I don't think Zuffa, they don't recognize it, and I don't think it's fair. I mean, it's kind of shady a little bit, but let me know what your thoughts are. Now, also today, they also signed Edgar Berlanga and Richardson Hitchens. Now, Richardson Hitchens is the one that actually wears me out a little bit because he left so many fights off the table. He left his fight versus Shakur Stevenson, versus Gary Anton Russell, versus the WBC champion Dalton Smith. He also left some fights off the table at 147 against Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. You know, there's Lewis Crocker, there's Rolly Romero. And also, he's going to have to move up to 147 anyway. But now you signed to Zuffa. You're never going to get that chance. You're never going to be recognized as a champion because the number one in the division is Devin Haney. And he doesn't plan on fighting for Zuffa. The number one at 140 is Shakur Stevenson. He doesn't plan on fighting for Zuffa, except they give him a bag, like a lot of money. Now, Edgar Berlanga, I really couldn't care less because he's what? He's kind of like a journeyman, and he's going to have to move up to 175. I don't see Bivol ever fighting for Zuffa. I don't see Benavidez, Beterbiev, any of those guys fighting for Zuffa. I think Zuffa Boxing is good to build up prospects, get them fights, get them paid, which is what I like. But if they keep just not respecting boxing, the belts, the fighters themselves, because a lot of these guys are not getting paid, they don't have any freedom. Zuffa Boxing has uniforms. You have uniforms in boxing, and that is just a crazy thing to have. But I don't know. I think it's just too early for me to decide. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Whether you hate what I say, because I know what I'm saying is just jumbled up. It's a lot of things at once. But I don't understand Zuffa. I don't understand why they don't recognize these other sanctioning bodies. I just think it's just very, very weird to me because to win the Zuffa belt, you have to be a ring champion. But if the ring champion isn't fighting for Zuffa, you're never going to win the Zuffa belt. So is Zuffa a promotional company or is Zuffa a sanctioning body? That's my question. That's my big question. I finally found it. Is it a promotion or a sanctioning body? Imagine Matchroom Boxing had the Matchroom belt. Imagine the PBC had the PBC Golden Boy belt. I mean, let me know what your thoughts are in comments below, and have a great day, guys.